Welcome back, everybody, to Dungeon Brew. John and I are continuing our conversation about Thieves Guilds. Today we are going to be talking about loyalty, entitlements, and responsibilities. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Dungeon Brew.
Welcome back, everybody, to Dungeon Brew. John and I are continuing to talk about Thieves Guilds today, and we're getting a little bit into the nitty-gritty, giving you some really hands-on stuff that you want to incorporate into your gameplay to bring it to life for characters if they're going to be engaging with Thieves Guilds. And today we're going to be talking about entitlements, responsibilities, and loyalty, not necessarily in that order. John, do you want to start with entitlements? Some of the things that, you know, your GMs are going to want to consider when they are handing out those. Let me stumble over that sentence.
Sure. Well, I do want to start with, we did the video that talked about the different guild types, and we did talk about entitlements to some degree there, right? So those entitlements are guilds or guild type specific. So if you're a member of a trader's guild, if you're a member of an assassin's guild, if you're a member of any of those other types of guilds, you're going to have some special entitlements that go specifically along with the guild type that you're establishing to begin with. This is something that I think DMs kind of inherently employ in there, but I think sometimes thinking about it directly allows you to pay more attention to what the players are gaining as a result of this, and sometimes having an NPC vocalize the benefits of being a part of the guild can help the PCs or the players realize the benefits, more tangibly than just kind of being like, oh yeah, not a problem, this and that and the other. So, sorry, that's my little intro. But in general, one of the big discounts, or one of the big benefits, is discounts for being a member of a Thieves Guild of any kind. Usually it has to do with a specialty guild type, so Assassin's Guilds are going to get discounts on poisons or weapons or things like that. Members of a Trader's Guild might have access to specific types of merchandise. Black markets might have access to cursed items or illegal goods. Those types of discounts are an entitlement that is inherent in those types of guilds.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And there's a number of different things. And it's funny how I consider this. Of course, I come from a world of, studying things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So when I think of the different entitlements that you want to offer your players to make it very real, it's going to move up that scale where you're seeing your basic needs being provided, a sense of physical and psychological safety, and relationships at all different levels, and making sure that those are embedded within your structure so that you're offering those to the guild. So if you're talking about like basic needs, this is also means that you have a place for like sanctuary or like room and board. It's a place where you can go, you can stay, you can sleep, and you have the protection of the people within the guild to have your back in a time of need. And those are huge bonuses to have, especially in a world of, tabletop role-playing games where potentially you're going to have a threat at every turn.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea of, especially when you're talking about cities in which there is a poor or homeless population in a fantasy world, or any population or any world, but the idea that they're basically linking up with like people who are their kind. So we talked about this with the models, right? Where sometimes it's a cultural style guild because the halflings in this particular city are considered to be bottom rung society. And so they come together to support one another. They end up forming a guild or a gang or something like that in some way. And they coalesce together. And that's the things you're talking about, where it's like suddenly they're relying on each other for protection. They're getting food. They're getting rest. They don't have to worry about somebody coming in and stealing their stuff. And the result of that is that connection that is very difficult for them to break overall. But I think that one of the other really neat options, especially if you're talking about feeling like you have a little bit something extra and feeling special, is the idea that you have allies throughout the region or throughout the town that recognize you as a member of that guild. And so then you get entitlements outside of the guild itself. So you walk into a tavern, and if you provide the correct sign, then that tavern keeper is going to be like, oh, I recognize you. You get this discount, or you get a drink for free, or you get several drinks for free, or you're on the run from the law, and so you go up and you recognize that there is a particular type of flower hanging outside of this old woman's house, and so you can go knock on the door 3 times and then knock twice more, and she'll let you in for a safe house so you can evade the law. Those types of entitlements allow players to feel like they have something special, that they're part of something larger, and that they have access to things that other people don't have access to.
Yeah, and I'd really encourage folks to think of creative ways of doing that too. It could even be something like this particular tavern allows you to put drinks on a tab up to a certain degree that's billed back to the guild as well. And I think that entitlements is such a fun topic to look into from this like gameplay perspective, because it's things that we see similarly in like World of Warcraft, where why would I want to go join the guild? Look at all these perks you get, you know.
Right.
And some of the things that you see within, you know, games like that is there's also mechanical benefits. Do you ever consider like outside game mechanical benefits for being parts of guilds? You join a guild and you're going to get an extra 5% experience in battles, or you're going to get an additional, you know, if you've been in the guild and you've done so many tasks, you're going to get a +1 to your attacks because you've had training beneath them. Do you consider those in your own gameplay, John?
Yeah, and that's actually something we talked about with the entitlements for the guild types, is that there were static skill bonuses that you got if you were affiliated with specific types of guilds. And I think part of what you're talking about is either expanding that or allowing those bonuses to grow or change over time based off of the degree of success you've had within the guild. So maybe starting out, you only, if you're a member of an assassin's guild, maybe you get a +1 to attack and a +1 to damage because you're part of this guild, right? And then as time progresses, either those bonuses get larger, or you get specific bonuses to stealth style checks. You get the discounts associated with it. You get access to specialty weapons and armor. Other things that start to come along with that are mechanical benefits in game based off of your loyalty to the guild and the tasks that you complete on their behalf.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of leads us into looking at specialty entitlements that you might have as well with the guild, which the first things that come to my mind are, and I know I keep referencing things outside of TTRPGs, but Game of Thrones, you know, Jon Snow, he gets promoted from the lower recruit ranks into a position of being a steward. It immediately gives him access to different room and board, where he has specialized quarters that he gets to stay in. He's awarded a sword that is, you know, up and beyond any of the other weaponry that's found within Castle Black in this show. And those are types of specialty entitlements that I see that come along after you've proven yourself in the guild. You're getting special lodging, you're getting special weapons that can aid you. What other things do you consider?
I mean, obviously, so I think maybe going backwards just a little bit so I can show the progression here, because we're talking about recruits. A recruit comes in, they're going to be in a bunkhouse. It's going to be a big room with beds stacked on top of each other, and you're sleeping in there with like 20, 30, 40 other people. And
you're in the army and you're in the barracks.
You're in the barracks. Then you become a member. When you're a member, suddenly you get upgraded from a room with, 30, 40 individuals to maybe 2 or 3 or 4 others, because now you're you're part of the guild. So you have your own little group that you hang out with, and you're just in a 3-bedroom apartment basically, and you get to hang out with those people. And then once you start achieving higher ranks, so you're either in the recruitment or you're in the master ranks, then you start getting your own apartments. That's when you're hitting it big time. You have your own special apartment. All the recruits and the rank and file are on one end of the guild house. All of the masters and the overseers are on the other end of the guild house. You have your own specialty kitchen with your own cooks that bring you food. You have your own special apartments with these luxury storage, and your own private safe that you can keep things in that's unpickable because you're in a thieves guild. You get your own weapons, your own armor. You have your own symbols that give you even better entitlements from allies when you're out and about in town, or you're communicating with people outside the guild house. Like, there's really no end to the special entitlements that you can get for achieving rank.
Yeah, and part of the pieces that come with that too, which kind of plays into that, is you might get access to the guild vault, where you're able to remove items freely without as much oversight on what it is that you have access to, and it allows you to maybe bump elbows with other people in town that are higher ranks to get special favors from allies throughout the city that you didn't have access to before because you didn't have enough authority to speak to them. And I think one of the biggest entitlements for me in these specialized entitlements has to do exactly with what you're talking about, the moving up of rank within the guild that gives you different authority and stature and recognition amongst others throughout it. And I recognize that in TTRPGs, oftentimes the GMs are not necessarily having a fully fledged guild campaign. So oftentimes your adventuring party contains a rogue. And one of the things we talked about before we started videoing today was the role of a headhunter and how well that fits with the adventuring rogue to go out and find individuals and move up stature and rank, then find individuals to send back to the guild.
Right, they're out poaching talent from around the region. It's something they can do passively while they're also participating in whatever is going on with the rest of the group. So,
yeah, and that's a huge benefit to say, hey, I'm a headhunter for the Shadow Thieves. I'm no longer just a recruit or a thug. I'm now a headhunter.
See, so for me, I think the biggest benefit that you would get from being like master rank or higher is the ability to actually command rank and file. So suddenly you're like, I need to go out and do this mission. And you call out 3 members or 2 thugs or whatever, and you say, we have a mission to do, come with me. So it's kind of like Grand Theft Auto when you're like putting your gang together and you just pull up and honk your horn and a bunch of people jump in the vehicle with you so you can go do a mission. You have that ability at a certain point once you've achieved a certain rank. So you suddenly are like, hey, we're going to go do this thing. I'm going to bring you along with me. Or even so far as going, I'm the master assassin. I want the master enforcer on this mission with me. So it's like, hey, listen, I'll do something for you later if you come with me on this mission now. And so then you can recruit higher ranked members to assist you in various tasks.
I absolutely love that. I'm like listening to this going, man, I've been guilding wrong all these years. But there's a lot of, I think, nuance and a lot of fun that can be had with this that I don't think we always consider as GMs. Now, a lot of what you're talking to, though, plays in directly into loyalty, though.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So loyalty is basically these things. It is the give and take relationship that exists within a guild that allows guild members to feel like they either are rewarded for their efforts, they belong to the guild, or they have a responsibility to the guild. And ultimately what it translates to is those guild members are not willing to throw any other guild member under the bus, and they're willing to risk themselves in one way, shape, or form to maintain their place within that guild.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically done through, it can be done through a variety of ways. It can be done through entitlements. So it's kind of like the lavish wealth type situation. You're a member of the guild and you're like, I'm part of it and I get all of these great things. The only problem with that approach sometimes is that if there's somebody else who offers something better down the road, if there's another guild who has just a better starting package, they have better benefits, then sometimes you can lose guild members. The other option is fear. You get loyalty through fear. So if there is the fear of reprisal, there's the fear of not doing your tasks within the guild, or there's a fear of betrayal and what happens to people who are disloyal, then you can definitely achieve loyalty to some degree by doing that as well.
That's very much how I oftentimes see loyalty, though, is that it's balanced on the scales with entitlements. Your loyalty is rewarded with the entitlements that you have,
right,
and your loyalty is measured by the responsibilities that you're fulfilling.
Correct.
So if you fulfill your responsibilities, you're obtaining loyalty, and that's measured with entitlements that you're receiving within the guild.
And part of the reason I think it's important that we talk about loyalty in these videos is that depending on your approach as a DM, it might be a situation where you have a player who's a member of a guild, and you want to make sure that that player stays loyal to the guild that you put for them. So set everything up to where it's like, hey, they really like being a part of this guild because they feel like they're rewarded. It might also be a situation where it's like you want to establish that the guild that they're a part of they should not be loyal to
Mm-hmm.
because there's another guild that is better, or there's another guild that is more aligned with whatever it is that they do. And so you can have those moral quandaries that take place throughout the game, where it's like, do you want to remain loyal to this guild that you started with but it's kind of bad, or do you want to try and switch loyalties to this other guild? And then the other thing that I'm thinking about is that if your player ever becomes a guild master, understanding how loyalty works helps you to role play the role of being a guild master and maintaining the loyalty of their members better.
Mm-hmm.
And so having some concepts or some ideas of where you want to approach loyalty, or how the player should be approaching loyalty through their character, I think is helpful as well.
Yeah, I agree. I know we're kind of running short on time here as we're continuing to talk about this, and we haven't dived into responsibilities, so I want to make sure we have time for that.
Sure.
And the first responsibility is always so funny to me.
Yeah.
Because that I think of, and it's about paying dues back to the guild. Like, you obtain loyalty by paying your dues and paying your dues on time. You don't want the enforcer, I want to say, or whoever it is, coming back and making sure that you're paying your dues to it. And the reason this one always strikes me as funny is because you may have the entitlement of receiving a discount for being a part of the guild, but the guild always gets theirs. And it's because you're paying back in to the guild a percentage of everything that you earn, which oftentimes means that you're paying more back into the guild than the discounts you're receiving.
And really, I think that the dues depend again on the guild type. If you're doing assassination missions, then whoever is paying for that might be paying the guild directly. They may not be paying you as the assassin if you're the player in that situation. But if they're paying the guild directly, then the guild would be paying you your value and taking their dues out automatically. Whereas if you're going and getting the payment from the person hiring you for the contract, they may give you 1,000 gold, but you're responsible for giving 100 or 200 back to the guild. The other thing that I do want to point out with dues is that there's usually guild territories. Sometimes there's allies or relationships between guilds. So if you're operating in another guild's territory, sometimes you're going to be responsible as a character or as a player character within the game that you're paying dues to the guild whose territory you are operating in. So if you're a pickpocket and you're operating in a neighboring guild's territory and you go around and pickpocket and you're seen doing this, then that guild may hold you responsible for paying dues to them because you're operating in their territory. And so sometimes you should be going through and getting permission from that guild territory or from that guild in that territory to act within their territory. And they'll say, yeah, you can act here temporarily. It's fine for the next week. You just need to pay us a certain percentage of everything that you take while you're operating within our territory. If you do it without permission, they may just kick your ass and take everything that you earned anyway because you never got permission. But playing along with those concepts in terms of dues, I think is very interesting.
If you want a good lesson in that, go watch the first season of The Sopranos. Another great thing, which kind of goes into that same realm, is looking at rivalries that exist and making sure that you are there and willing to stand up against rival guilds that are in the area. You know, kind of what side of the tracks are you on? You know, I think West Side Story, or even, you know, Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, where you essentially have your guild members that are actively willing to bite their thumb at the other guild members and support those that are doing so.
Yeah, we're getting Shakespearean up in this bitch. So yeah, rivalries are fun, and I think that this gives an opportunity for more of like just a general combat style vibe for situations where suddenly it's like, hey, you know, the neighboring guild killed 3 of our members, we're going to strike back, come on, let's go. And if you don't participate, or you know, then you're considered to not be upholding your responsibilities to the guild. One of the other ones is just remaining active. So I think that this is probably one of the biggest struggles, and I think this is where you're going with the headhunter, is the members who basically will show up once a month to do some work and then they disappear for a while because they're not remaining active within it. So you're expected to be a guild member, you're expected to be active, and generally speaking, the dues may be a flat rate that you're responsible for paying every single week or every single month, and if you're not active, you're not paying your dues, and if you're not active, you're not participating in the progression of the guild in general. So that might be something you consider for your player characters as well.
And I'll be honest, as a GM, this is the one that I struggle with the most to keep track of, because I get carried off on side adventures and major quest lines, and, you know, my thieves don't always pay back their dues or come back and check in or do menial tasks or side quests for the guild, and it can be really hard to challenge it, which is why I love the headhunter option. There's always an activity that can be engaged in that keeps them active in the guild while they're out adventuring, that doesn't require them to travel halfway back across the world to check in with their guild again and find another quest to go do.
Sure. So one of the ways of getting around that was just be requesting like a temporary leave type situation, saying, hey, I need to go on this adventure. I'm going to be gone for a period of time, and when I return, then I'll participate in the guild. A lot of this is about good communication. All right. Mm-hmm. So if you're a member of a guild and you want to take some leave, then you need to have good communication with whoever's in charge of you, so they know that you're going to be gone for a while, and then they won't be upset when you suddenly disappear for a month.
Yeah, it's good management. And this is, I think, where most of the responsibilities wrap up. It's looking at that managerial piece of it from the guild to the player character, and how you as a game master are going to be facilitating that. If your player starts to do things that is betraying the guild's, values, or not paying in their dues, or, maybe they are engaging with other guilds without communicating that, or they have an intention to leave the guild without letting the higher ups in the guild know about that, there should be consequences for that, and because it's betraying their responsibilities and however they're behaving within the game.
Yeah, and these are things you should decide about the guild when you're building the guild, or when you're structuring it initially, is what are the consequences for betrayal? So if a guild member is stealing from other members in the guild, is it a slap on the wrist? Do they have to pay double back? Do they get branded? Do they get killed? Like, what degree of consequences there for certain actions? And it's kind of the same thing for leaving the guild. Is leaving the guild as simple as turning in your 2 weeks notice, and turning in all of your guild paraphernalia? Do they have to change all the passwords around town so that you can't benefit from the guild anymore? Or is it more serious? Is it like blood in, blood out type situation, where it's like, once you're in, you cannot leave the guild and there's no way out? Mm-hmm. So those types of things, I think, are important to determine from a DM standpoint as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation looking at entitlements and loyalty and responsibilities within Thieves Guilds. I know there's a lot of information in this video, so you might have to watch back through it again to pick up on all these things. But I'd love to hear what you're incorporating in your own Thieves Guilds around these particular topics. If you're enjoying the conversation and you're looking forward to seeing more, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Judge and brew.